Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going to talk about building a bridge of trust for your AI. We're going to connect RAG systems, that's Retrieval Augmented Generation, to the MCP framework. And the goal? It's simple, to get reliable, fact-based answers straight from your own private documents.
So let's just start with the biggest question of them all. How do you actually make your AI tell the truth? I mean, we all know that large language models are incredibly powerful, but they also have this little habit of, well, just making stuff up. We call it hallucination, and the secret to stopping it is grounding the AI in your specific, real-world data.
So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off with what we call the grounding problem. Then we'll see how RAG meets MCP, and we'll compare two different approaches, resources versus tools. After that, we'll look at the hybrid approach, which is the best of both worlds, talk about how to actually build the connection, and then we'll wrap it all up with a super practical checklist to get you started.
All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the grounding problem. We're going to dig into why these LLMs hallucinate and, way more importantly, what we can actually do about it. So here's the fundamental issue, right? An untethered AI is just guessing. If it doesn't have access to your company's internal wiki or your project's latest documentation, it's pretty much operating in a vacuum. The solution is Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. Just think of it like giving your AI a library card to your own private knowledge base so it can actually look things up instead of making them up.
So how do we build this? Well, that brings us to Section 2, RAG meets MCP, what I like to call the architecture of trust. This is where we combine the fact-finding power of RAG with the really structured communication of the Model Controller Peripheral Framework to build something you can actually rely on.
So first, what exactly is RAG? The best way to think about it is giving your AI its own personal, curated library. So instead of just pulling from its massive general training data, it can look up facts in your specific documents. This is how you ground its answers in stuff that is actually verifiable. It's really the difference between guessing and knowing.
Okay, let's trace the flow of information here. It all starts on the left with the AI client, which asks a question. That question travels over the MCP protocol to a RAG server. The server then goes and queries a vector database, which is kind of like a super smart search index for concepts, not just keywords. It finds the most relevant facts, sends them back to the AI, and the AI synthesizes a final grounded answer.
Okay, so the AI has its library, but how does it actually access that library? Well, there are two main philosophies here, which we'll call resources versus tools. You can think of it as two different ways a librarian might help you find what you're looking for. This really lays out the two different ways of thinking. On the left, you've got the resource-based approach. This is like browsing the library shelves yourself. The AI sees a list of all the available documents and can just ask to read one. It's simple, it's direct. Then on the right, you have the tool-based approach. This is like going to a research librarian for help. The AI uses a powerful search tool to ask very specific questions and get back precise snippets of info. So you've got simple versus powerful. Yeah, so the resource-based approach is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, browsing. The AI gets a simple list of what's there, kind of like a table of contents. Then it can ask to read a specific document. It's straightforward for sure, but you can probably see how it wouldn't be super efficient for finding one specific fact buried in thousands of pages. But the tool-based approach, now we're talking. This is all about targeted research. Instead of just browsing, the AI uses a powerful search tool. It can ask a question in natural language, it can filter the search by things like category or date, and it gets back only the most relevant snippets. This is just so much more precise and powerful for complex questions. So which one is better, the simple one or the powerful one? Well, why not use both? And that brings us to the hybrid approach, which is all about getting the best of both worlds. Let's just walk through how this works in practice. So a user asks, what does our API documentation say about authentication? The AI model is smart enough to know this isn't a browsing task. It immediately calls the Search Documents tool with that query. The RAG server then dives into the vector database, finds the most relevant document chunks, and sends them back. And finally, the model synthesizes a perfect cited answer from those chunks. It's simple, efficient, and powerful. Okay, we've covered the theory. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Section 5, Building the Connection, where we'll cover the key implementation details. A truly robust, production-ready system has a few core components you can't skip. It all starts with document ingestion, breaking your documents into smaller chunks and creating embeddings, which are just numerical representations of their meaning. Then you need a powerful semantic search tool.
a way to provide citations in every response, and a plan for handling real-time document updates. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the matter. It's all about grounding. An answer from an AI is completely useless if you can't trust it. So the final answer must include the sources it used. This means showing the user the exact document, maybe even the specific quote that backs up the answer. This is how you create that verifiable chain of trust.
This brings up a really critical question for any real-world system. What happens when your documents change? An answer based on last week's documentation could be more than just wrong. It could be dangerous. Your system has to stay current.
And this is where the MCP framework really shines. You can set up a file watcher that just monitors your documents. The second a file is changed, it automatically triggers a re-indexing of your data. Then, and this is the magic part, it sends out an MCP notification to all connected clients, letting them know that fresh information is available. It creates this perfect closed-loop system that stays completely in sync.
Okay, let's bring it all together. Here is your RAG plus MCP checklist. Think of this as a blueprint to guide your own implementation.
All right, here's your action plan. First, pick your vector database and build out your ingestion pipeline. Next, implement that semantic search tool and make sure it supports metadata filtering. And this is critical. Include citations in all results. From there, you can start to layer on optimizations, like caching and real-time updates. And finally, always evaluate your search quality. This is your path to a production-ready RAG system.
And that really brings us to the end. By connecting RAG and MCP, you create a system where the answers your AI gives aren't just plausible, they're provable. So I guess my question to you is, now that your data is verifiable, what are you going to build with it?